and we were just waiting to arrest them. But the council says, no, if you want anything off us, which what we deliver is poor anyway, if you want it off us, you've got to come to us and you've got to jump through hoops for us. I got into trouble for criticising Black Lives Matter, but the internet turned on me. I was called a racist and a Nazi. If we don't give him Nick's head, they may come for us. The issue is safeguarding young people, even the ones who are vulnerable, even the ones who don't understand how the world works. They deserve protecting as well. Oh, I feel sorry for you. You've not got a father. Oh, you live in a council estate. Oh, and you're not doing well. Can I take you to a McDonald's and shall we have a conversation?
So, hello, Nick. Hi.
Hello, Paul, and thank you for inviting me on today.
That's okay. Now, you're first of all, you're Nick Buckley MBE, member of the British Empire, correct?
Correct.
And so you must have done something for that public recognition, which is quite significant in the UK. Yeah?
Yes, so that's 20 years working in the council, working in the charity sector. I'm working on the streets mainly with young people, trying to stop them getting involved in crime and antisocial behaviour, and also setting projects up to get rough sleepers off the streets into accommodation, into support and into jobs as well.
Right. So how did this start? Can we sort of go back to your history a bit? I mean, yeah, by history, I mean, as I understand it, you didn't have a great beginning to your life. Yeah. But we're not going to go into any personal details because just like me, I'm private as well. But so you started off like that. Can you sort of take the story from the beginning for us?
Sure. So I was born 68, poor family, but that's, don't feel sorry for me. Everybody I grew up with was poor. I mean, it meant nothing at the time. I came from a fatherless household, no positive male role models. I drifted all the way through my teens and my 20s. I was expecting someone to knock on my door and give me the opportunities I deserved. And surprise, surprise, no one ever knocked on my door to give me anything. And I got to 30 and I decided, well, whatever I'm doing is not working. This isn't working at all. So I got my first proper job at 30. Before that, I'd been self-employed, wheeling, dealing, a bit like a Del boy from Only Fools and Horses. I thought I could make a deal and be a millionaire. So I got my first job really at 30 at Manchester Airport. And my life started to improve straight away. I had a regular wage. It wasn't a great wage, but you could depend on it because it came every month. And then I went traveling around the world for a couple of years once I left the airport. And I ended up getting a job at Manchester Council just by fluke, really. And suddenly I was working with people whose job it was to improve other people's lives. And that was a new concept to me. I was just like everybody else. I was quite selfish, quite self-centered. I was still a nice person. I wasn't a criminal, but I was still self-centered. It was all about what can I get? What can I do? What it's about me. And I started working with people whose job it was to help other people. And I fell into a job there, working with young people who were on the cusp of getting involved in criminality. So it was an early intervention project. These were young people in Manchester who we knew were going down the wrong path. The police were complaining about them, the housing, the council officers were complaining about them, and we were just waiting to arrest them. And my job was to intervene with those young people and try to push them back on the right path rather than waiting until we can arrest them and get into court. That achieves very little. So I started doing that. I excelled at that. I ended up running Manchester City Centre for the council in terms of reducing crime and antisocial behaviour.
And can you stop there, Jab? Sorry to interrupt. Why did you excel at that? Why do you think you excelled at that?
I was one of those kids. I was one of those kids that I was paid to talk to. And the other people doing that job were all university educated, mostly female. And before I turned up, the usual patter was, "Oh, I feel sorry for you. You've not got a father. Oh, you live in a council estate. Oh, and you're not doing well. Can I take you to a McDonald's and shall we have a conversation?" And I turned up and went, "Right, stop with your excuses. Stop with your BS. I'm not taking any of this off you. Can you see your mum's face? Do you see how worried she is? Because your mum knows if you don't behave, I'm going to get her evicted from her house. Do you understand that? I came from tough love. And these kids realised they couldn't pull the wool over my eyes because I lived the life they're living now. No, some of my friends are dead. Some of my friends are up in jail. I don't take the BS. I want the best for these young people. I really do. But I'm not prepared to listen to excuses and lies and BS. And that was very, very successful.
Right. So sorry. So you can continue. Sorry for the interruption, but it was important for me to understand,
Yeah.
and the people watching this to understand why you were good at it. Yeah. So carry on with the story, please.
So then I was running Manchester City Centre in terms of reducing crime and antisocial behaviour. And then in 2011, austerity kicked in. My job, my team's job all went overnight. I was offered another job in elections and in healthy eating. And I said to myself, I'm not doing any of them. So I took the money on the table and I took redundancy. I used that money to set up a charity called Mancunian Way. So I set the charity up. I worked for it for free for 2 years and then invested my 30 grand redundancy in it. And that's really what I got the MBE for. And I set projects up working on the streets, in the tough neighbourhoods, in the evenings, at the weekends, to engage with kids on the streets, on their patch, in their neighbourhood, on their terms, and try to offer them help and support. So normally we expect kids to go to where we are. This is how bad our government is. If this was a private industry, we would take our services to the customer.
Yes.
But the council says, no, if you want anything off us, which what we deliver is poor anyway, if you want to offer us, you've got to come to us and you've got to jump through hoops for us. So I flipped all that on heads. We took services to young people on the streets, the ones getting involved in antisocial behaviour, low-level crime. So, we've saved, that's over 15 now, we've saved over 15 kids being raped, 14 girls, 1 boy.
Sorry, how did you manage to do that?
By having conversations on the streets and finding. Here's a good example. So we had a girl say to us, not to me personally, to one of my female members of staff, can I ask you a question? And we said, yeah. I've got a boyfriend. Well, I think he's my boyfriend. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's my boyfriend. He says he's my boyfriend. So obviously, alarm bell straight away. 14-year-old girl doesn't know if this guy's her boyfriend or not. So we allowed her to talk. Why don't you know he's your boyfriend? Well, he phones me up and I meet him and he takes me down an entry and then he does stuff to me. And what he was doing was first couple of times, well, all 3 times, he was sexually assaulting her at the back of an entry. And then just walking away and leaving her. And then when he wanted to do it again, he'd ring him up and say, I'm your boyfriend. You have to meet me. And she'd meet him thinking, well, he's my boyfriend. Now, a lot of people will listen to that and go, how stupid is she? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. That's not the issue. The issue is safeguarding young people, even the ones who are vulnerable, even the ones who don't understand how the world works. They deserve protecting as well. So there was another time where we were working in Manchester City Centre, came across, he looked like, well, he said he was a young man. He said he was 18. He was in the cruising male prostitution area of the city centre. So we approached him. He said, I'm 18. And as we walked away, one of my members of staff said, I could swear that's a school blazer under that coat. I don't think he's 18. So we phoned the police. The police turned up. It turned out he was 14 years old and he was selling himself in Manchester City Centre. The police got his phone, went in his phone and found evidence of up to 34 men abusing him over 18 months. That means he started that when he was 12. So they're the things you can find out when you're working with young people, when you're working on the streets in those areas where there is issues, where there is trouble.
By the way, I come originally from Liverpool. I was born in Liverpool, and just to explain to people, an entry is the sort of passageways between houses, and in council houses you can have 2 rows of houses, and between them is this. All the back doors are there. That's called the entry. Just to explain that to people, because
other people call it an alley.
An alley, yes, the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to interpret it for everybody, but I've gone into trouble using that word in the past. Right. So carry on with your story then, please.
So then that was the first project we set up, which is still running now. I'm not involved in charity anymore for different reasons.
Right.
But then we set up projects then helping homeless people in the city centre. We would go out on the because we realised we're excellent at going on the streets. Most people can't work on the streets. Most youth workers can't work on the streets. They feel it's too dangerous. It's too intimidating. They want to be in the building with security. I employ people who can work on the streets. So we worked on the streets in Man City Centre. We got nearly 100 rough sleepers off the streets in a couple of years.
How did you manage that? Because you've got to have the accommodation or the hostel or something to put them into. So how could you, as an individual outside the system, outside the official system, how can you manage that?
It's about working with partners. It's about working with housing associations, working with the other big charities, working with the council, and making sure they're doing their job and saying, right, we've got a referral for you. This is his name. These are his details. We need to get him off the streets now. What can you offer? What have you got? Especially the council. So the council have, a duty of care for everybody in their area. Now, this wasn't easy work with the council incompetent. We had, I could give you two examples of Manchester Council and Salford Council of really not caring about rough sleepers. Manchester Council, it took us months to get this rough sleeper to want help off us. It takes months and months, this work. And after 3-4 months, he said, okay, I want accommodation. So we took him to Manchester Council. We had to queue up for 5 hours. He was coming down from his drugs at that point. We couldn't even get him a plastic cup of water from inside Manchester Town Hall. They don't give anybody water. We're trying to explain he's a rough sleeper. This has taken 4 months to get him here. We don't care. So eventually we got him help after 5-6 hours of being in queues and speaking to people. Again, no fast track. If you want to complain about your bins, well, maybe you should queue up for 6 hours to complain about your bins.
Because the entire public sector always gears itself around to itself. Never, and that's my experience, it never gears around to the service it's providing as a customer. It doesn't think about you as a customer.
No, absolutely. There is no customer care in government, because their thinking is, well, if you don't want this service, don't have it. I get paid anyway. I don't care.
That's
and it's because there's no consequences to them being poor. But that council story then.
You've done an amazing job there to even do these things. I mean, it must have been really grinding work.
Oh, it really is. And we have more failures than we have successes, but we concentrate on the successes.
Good.
Yeah. But going back to that council story, so when we did that, I wrote a letter to Manchester Council, not a complaint, just this is where you need to improve. Let me tell you about our experience as an award-winning charity trying to access services at Manchester Council. And months later, we got a reply back. And the reply basically said, if your client wanted water, across the road from the council is a cafe. You could have bought a bottle of water there.
Yeah.
That was all the feedback we got. They didn't understand. I was trying to give them feedback. They thought they were helping us, telling us where we could buy a bottle of water from. So we did all those projects. Then COVID kicked in.
Yes.
COVID itself closed half our projects down, which never reopened again. And then on a personal matter, I got into trouble for criticising Black Lives Matter in 2020 at the height of Black Lives Matter.
What did you say?
I wrote an article based on their website talking about that they were a neo-Marxist organisation. Mm-hmm. They wanted to defund the police. They wanted to get rid of fathers out of the home. Yes. All the things we take for granted now.
Yeah.
Nobody knew in 2020. They thought this was an amazing, enslaved black people sort of organisation. But the internet turned on me. I was called a racist and a Nazi. The board of the charity I set up panicked and they sacked me over email.
So they sacked. So you set up the charity and they sacked you from it because you weren't woke enough, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. Is it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So they weren't woke. They were just cowards. They knew I weren't a Nazi.
Yeah.
I'd known them, some of them I'd known decades.
Yeah.
So they just saw the online mob screaming for blood, and they all thought, if we don't give him Nick's head, they may come for us. So it's
But
easy to,
the lesson of history is they
yeah,
come for the next one. They don't stop at you.
yeah, yeah. Well, it didn't stop for them because I went for them. So they sacked me.
Yeah.
They should have known better that I wasn't going to take it lying down. I thought to myself, I'm not going to win here, but you know what? I'll be a bloody good second place.
Yeah.
So I took them on with the help of the Free Speech Union,
Yeah.
and in 5 weeks we forced them all to resign in disgrace, and I got the charity back.
So what we've got with you then is a man of principle, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I say to people all the time, if you don't want the truth off me, don't ask me a question because I'll tell you the truth. It may not be nice, it may not be sugar coated, you may not want to hear it. So therefore, be careful if you're going to ask me my opinion or want to ask me a question.
Good. So is there any more you'd like to carry on with your history before I move on to the next phase?
Yeah. So in a nutshell, that's sort of my experience. I ended up leaving the charity a year later because my reputation had been damaged. So councils, housing associations, people making grants kept saying, "Oh, we're not going to fund you if Nick Buckley's still involved in the charity," even though I'd been cleared. It's like, oh no, Nick. So I had to leave the charity to make sure it didn't fail. So the charity is doing amazing now, but I'm not involved anymore. And then I moved into politics. Basically, it's like I was a bit lucky to survive that cancellation. Other people are being cancelled who don't have my luck. Therefore, we need to change the system. And the more I looked around, the more I saw my country was dying. And I'd spent decades solving individual problems for individual people. And then I realized I need to solve the problems of the country now, not just individuals. So then I moved into politics. I stood for Reform UK as Mayor of Greater Manchester 4 years ago. And then I stood last year for Mayor of Greater Manchester again against Andy Burnham. I came third as an independent this time. And then I decided I needed to join a political party. You can't do it on your own as independent. So I then looked around, and the only party worth joining was Advance UK.
Fine, and that's what brought us together. We're both college members of Advance UK.
Yeah.
And as we started this broadcast with, you've been going around in your terrific charity way, interviewing everyone else. This is the return. So why did you join Advance UK? I mean, you said it was the nearest, the best for you. And that's all you're ever doing is you're choosing the nearest party to you. So why did you join Advance UK?
For several reasons. The first reason is doing nothing isn't an option anymore. Mm-hmm. If you live in this country and you're patriotic, doing nothing isn't an option.
Brilliant.
You don't have to do what I do. You're an individual. You've got your own skills. You've got your own life. You've got your own limitations. I get that.
Yeah.
But doing nothing isn't an option. Work out what you can do. You might work for a woke company, in which case you've got to keep your mouth shut publicly in case you lose your job. That's fine. I accept that. But there's things you can do behind the scenes. Yeah. Talk to your family, talk to your friends. You work out what you can do. So I worked out that obviously I've got a big mouth. I'm uncancelable now. I've made sure that no one can cancel me going forward. And what I like about Advance UK is, first of all, it is democratic. And the whole idea about Advance UK is to save the UK through democracy. And many other parties are not democratic. How can you save democracy if you're not even democratic yourself?
Correct.
I also like the idea of the college. So it's a little bit like a fantasy football manager. I compare the college to that. So normally you'd look at a party and you go, oh, if only we could have that person in the party, if only we could have that person doing that job, and just like you do a football manager. And that's what the college is. The college is, up to 100 people who have all got different skills, different experiences. Some you won't agree with, but that's
Yeah.
absolutely fine.
Yes.
Some you'll love, and that's great. And people will have different favorites, but
Yeah.
the fact we've got different experience, different talents in there means when we're looking at policies, like for me, it'll be social policy. That's my expertise.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we don't repeat the mistakes of previous governments where to tackle a problem, that's great. We're tackling this particular problem. That's great. But behind the scenes, we've just caused 4 more problems that we didn't realize were going to be the consequences of fixing this problem in the way we fixed it. I've seen this throughout my whole career of 20 years of creating new problems by thinking we're fixing something else, because we don't connect what we're doing with different topics, different fields. Most people don't understand how humans react, what humans will do. We have no idea what humans will do until humans do it. Even the cleverest people are always let down by what humans do. So the college, I'm hoping, is going to get around some of those problems. I also like the fact the college technically can sack and get rid of the leader. How many other parties have such democracy like that, where if we all feel it's going in the wrong way, we can actually, change the leader? Yeah. Compare that to something like Reform UK, yeah, where basically a dictatorship, and that's the way they, it's a one-man dictatorship.
Yeah, it's not just a dictatorship. They said they democratized it. They appeared on a conference and said, right, we're doing it now. We're going to hand over the power to you. And they didn't do it. When interviewed on TV, it's a few weeks away. And then gradually you lose interest.
Yes.
But it's a company owned by a couple of people. And you can buy your way in there. Give them 200,000 quid and you become right up at the top. That is not the way to do it, is it? And I don't want to sit around just sticking at reform, but, that was the only option before Advance. And that's why the reasons you've named are exactly why I joined Advance. I'm in a different area to you.
Yeah.
But, but that's why I joined. Is there I'm going to ask you some final questions. I'm going to turn the tables on you in a minute. Right. But is there anything else you'd like to say before we wind up?
No, I think that's a good summary of who I am,
good,
where I am, why I am where I am today, and good, why I joined Advance.
So, if you were to wake up, in fact, go on. You ask yourself the question I'm going to ask you, which is the one you ask everybody.
Yeah. So the last question I ask everybody is: you go to sleep tonight, you wake up in 5 years' time. How do you want to see the country? What country do you want to see when you wake up?
So answer that one.
So that question is, 5 years from now, I would like to see. Now I know why people struggle with this now. What I want to see is 5 years' time. I would like to see a strong, independent UK, because we're not strong at the moment and we're not independent. We have too much interference from foreign bodies, the UN, the WEF, the EU, WHO. We need to pull out of all those organizations that have direct influence and direct legal influence over what we do. We can still be members of international organizations as long as they're shared objectives, as opposed to we dictate to you what you can do and can't do. Pull out of all of them. I'd like to see our borders closed.
Yes.
And I probably mean fully closed. Yes. Even if we have the world's best brain surgeon from Tokyo, I don't think we should give him a visa to come here to work, because I think we need to close the borders completely until we deal with the mess we call mass immigration. I'd like to have seen in the next 5 years every illegal immigrant deported. I'd like to have seen every foreign criminal deported. I'd like to have seen many of legal migrants to have gone home, because we've told them, thank you for coming, thank you for contributing. It's time you went home now to your own country. So I'd like to see many of them gone home. I'd like to see all our public institutions working the way they should work. The police, the prison service, the councils, the government, the NHS. All these services are all failing, and they've been failing for decades and decades and decades. Mm-hmm. I keep correcting people when people say it's this Labour government. No, it's not. This has been a long-term plan over probably
Absolutely.
50 years. This government's making it worse, but every government before them made it worse.
Yes, they're all
So
spinning the wheel. We're just spinning the wheel faster now, this government. It's very bad.
exactly,
Very
exactly. And just blaming this Labour government takes our eye off what the real issue is.
correct.
Because if you blame this government, the answer is replace this government. But we can't replace this government if we have the same civil service with
No.
the same mindset, with the same interference, with their own agenda. Nothing ever changes. I'd like to see all that fixed. And I think most of all, what I want to really see is I want to see British men and women be kings and queens of their own lives. And what I mean by that is I want a smaller state. I want individuals taking more personal responsibility, running their lives, running their families, running their communities, no reliance on the state to a certain extent.
Tough love.
Tough love, exactly what I've been doing for 20 years. Tough love, making your own decisions. And if you fail, that's fine. Stand up, brush yourself down, carry on. You've learned a lesson there. But if we have governments making mistakes on your behalf, you can never change those mistakes. But if you make a mistake, then you can change that and you can learn from that. I want to see us more independent, more resilient, and stronger. As in, this is my life. I'm going to lead the life I want to lead, and I don't need you interfering in my life. Obviously, within some boundaries of the law and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, I think you cheated a bit, though, because you gave a very long answer to that, describing almost wonderful world that we could be in 5 years. When you asked me the question, the other people, we tried to give a quick summary. But now you realise the table's turned on you, how difficult that question is. But what you've done there is describe a world we should have. And you've described it extremely well, Nick. And I'd like to thank you for coming on. And, we maybe meet again on another podcast sometime.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much, Nick. And that is Nick Buckley, member of the British Empire. And you can see why he's an MBE, can't you? Thank you, everyone.